Attention, armchair quarterbacks and shower thought GMs. It's time for this week's episode of SportsBall with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley.
So, did I or did I not call it that we would all be discussing the new Dallas team as underwhelming?
You did. You called it.
I just
and
know,
you were right.
I just know Dallas sports. That's all there is to it.
You know, there was a lot of strange synergy because the Tampa Bay team performed pretty much like you'd expect a Tampa Bay team.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, welcome back to SportsBall for episode 63. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by now Tampa Bay Vipers superfan, Mike Maharrey. Mike, how are you doing?
Super. It's a beautiful day in northern Florida. 76 degrees, man.
It's well, we had 73 and then flash floods and then snow and then back to 68 and then floods again. We're currently in flood 2.0.
Gotcha. Yeah, this typical Tennessee winter.
Yeah. So the end of last week we had a tornado. That was cool.
Fun.
Yeah, we had snow-nados. We had snow-nados. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, that is pretty much typical Tennessee. So Mike, what do you remember from last week without really looking?
Well, I don't remember a lot from last. I mean, we're going to talk about the XFL. I don't want to get into that, but I remember that I was wrong about the Super Bowl. Apparently, defense doesn't win championships.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well,
especially when your defense melts down in the last quarter.
Yeah, I mean, and they did, but we kind of lost our Super Bowl Redux episode from last week. But all I can say is that when it was 20-10 San Francisco, either late in the third or early in the fourth, that was the moment of the game when San Francisco won all their games. They had been controlling the line of scrimmage. They had been running the ball. At this stage of the game, you're either continuing to do so, and which means you're shaving the clock. Maybe you put another score on the board, and that's it. And if that had been what had happened, no one would have been surprised if I told you it was 20-10 San Francisco ball in the fourth quarter. You'd been like, well, this is what happens next, because we've seen it over and over and over again. That didn't happen. Lots of blame to go around. A lot of people gave Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of grief, and rightfully so. He failed to hit a lot of throws, especially late in the game. I think he finished something like 1 of 9 over his last 10 throws. I mean, it was bad.
He was not good in the second half at all.
Not good in the second half. Although, his performance speaks for itself. But if you're the coach of the team, now keep in mind this is the same Shanahan that had the 28-3 lead.
Yes.
Atlanta versus New England, and he's had to live with that the last few years. But yet we again find him in a position where he has not as big of a lead, but for as ugly as the first half of that game was, that's a commanding lead. I mean,
yeah.
If this were old school football where people didn't score in 30 seconds, 20-10 in the fourth quarter, you feel like you're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Mahomes looked rattled in the first half.
Yes, he did. Mahomes definitely didn't look 100%, and I think that was more mental than.
Yeah, I think there was a point where he looked up and thought, I'm not playing very good. And then he played good.
Yeah.
I think the turning point was that 3rd and 15.
Yes.
I mean, if you're a great defense, you do not let a team make a first down on 3rd and 15 late in the game like that.
But I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, it starts and stops with the head guy, and Shanahan rightfully deserves most/all of the blame. So I mean, he's the guru, he's the guy running the offense, he's the guy calling the plays for the 49ers. And I mean, to his credit, if you're going to give him the credit and the blame, then the credit is you're in the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. And so that goes to him. But also vice versa. I mean, over the last 2 or 3 drives the 49ers had, when you definitely had a feeling that Kansas City was coming on, but they had not quite taken control of the game yet, the 49ers elected to throw the ball a lot when Garoppolo was clearly struggling. And I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. If you're in the Super Bowl and you call a pass play, you want your quarterback to complete a pass. I mean, that's his job. But as a coach, you have to see where guys are struggling. You have to stay with the hot hands. and you have to make the game manageable, because at the end of the day, you're the one calling the shots. I think if the 49ers had gone 100% conservative and had done nothing but run and punt, Kansas City probably still would have had enough time to take the lead. But
Yeah.
it would have been a lot closer, I'll tell you that. I mean, the 49ers absolutely could have run another 3 or 4 minutes, full minutes off the clock, and the game would have been definitely shortened. Now, that's not to say Kansas City still doesn't win, but that's also not to say that I mean, the 49ers had a couple of drives in the fourth quarter where they went 3 and out, but they went rush, pass, punt.
Well, yeah, I was thinking there in particular after San Francisco scored to pull it down. I think it was 3. You thought, okay, so San Francisco, if they can grind the ball a little bit, run some clock, they've still got a shot. You felt the momentum had shifted to Kansas City, and that in particular was one of those 3 and outs. They ran the ball on first down, picked up 4 or 5 yards. Second down, tried to throw it, incomplete pass. Then your third medium. Can't get the job done, and you're 3 and out, and then you're giving a team with offensive momentum the ball back, having the defense just rested maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So, and that was the point. And I turned and looked at my wife and said, "This game's over. San Francisco's going to lose."
Yeah.
So,
well, something that I've said many times in the past is that if you have something in the bag, if you have some kind of trickeration or a new look you haven't shown in the past or whatever, like what time are you waiting for other than like the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl? So again, I have to give a lot of hate to Shanahan, because again, you could just run the ball to run maximum time off the clock. Yeah, maybe they probably still lose. Although, I mean, they had a couple of possessions where they run the ball for 3 or 4, which is a solid run. And then it's pass, punt, because there's a bunch of incompletions. You're stopping the clock, you're gaining no yards. What's to say they could not have run on second down and make it 3rd and 4, 3 or 4 or 5? What's to say,
or even 3rd and 2?
You don't break a tackle. And I mean, they were at a stage of the game, even when it was just a 3-point game, a 1-possession game. They were still at a point where you could conceivably pick up to a couple of first downs and conceivably in.
Sure.
I mean, it's in the realm of possibility. Even though your defense is reeling, even though Jimmy G is struggling, you could still pick up a couple of first downs and effectively end the game, even if you punt after. And not only did they not really show that, not only did they abandon the running game, but they also they didn't really show a lot of imagination. I mean, again, if it's like pick one, either run the ball to try to regain control of the clock, or run a little bit more imaginative offense. Like if you had a reverse, if you had a throwback to a flea flicker, a throwback to the QB, if you had anything, if you were going to run a screen, the 49ers weren't really a big screen team, but if you had anything you hadn't showed opposing offenses or defenses on tape, now's the time. And this is now our second opportunity on the biggest of stages that Shanahan was kind of left like with, well, I've played all my cards. If we don't win, like that's the one position the head coach can never be in is deer in the headlights. What do we do now? The head coach can't be there. It's not possible.
No, I felt like that the stage got a little bit too big. And I really, where that really hit, where I really thought, this is a problem, was the clock management at the end of the first half. It's like, what are you doing? They actually went to you probably remember they went to a shot, and John Lynch was like, "Call timeout!" They let like a minute run off the clock.
Yes.
And instead of pushing the ball down, you defer that kickoff because the stats tell you that you're going to get that extra possession, and then you get the ball again in the beginning of the second half. So you kind of get a opportunity to score going in and coming out, and they just kind of squandered that, goofing around, and they almost scored anyway. I mean, Kittle made that big catch, and they were down there close to field goal range, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I was disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing. I mean, yes, it's true that the defense kind of flamed out at the end, but I mean, considering who they were up against and considering the amount of points that KC had poured on their last few opponents, and all of them come from behind type of scenarios, I mean, for you to have held them to 10 points going into the fourth, like you kind of have to feel like the defense did their job. Yeah, maybe KC scores 2 or 3 quick ones to end the game because you're out of gas, but your offense has, the offense didn't have to keep up for 4 quarters. They just had to keep up for like 10 minutes and they couldn't do it.
Right.
That's all is what it boils down to. They didn't even have to keep up. They just had to gain a couple more let's be serious. A couple of first downs between 6-8 minutes left on the clock and the game is probably over. They couldn't do it, period.
Yep.
So the NFL's over. That means we're done with football, right?
Yeah, but we got football yesterday. Saturday.
Got football yesterday. It's time for it's XFL 2.0. And we had discussed doing an episode where we talked about the kind of the rule changes, kind of just differences with the league in general. And we just sort of kind of didn't really get around to it. But now we have to, because the XFL debuted and by all metrics, it was a successful debut.
Yeah. I watched a little bit.
And that's how you know. That's how you know that it was a successful debut. Mike Maharrey watched a little bit.
Yeah. And my wife watched a little bit, and we both found it an enjoyable afternoon of football. Well, it looked like football. That's, I texted that to you in
yes, you did.
Like very, very soon after I started watching the first game. The first game I watched was the Tampa Bay New York game, and I told you it looks like football, and it wasn't gimmicky like the first version of XFL, which was kind of silly. I liked it. It was a good product. I enjoyed it. We'll get into some of the reasons I imagine here as we look at the
so
rules and whatnot.
I want to start off before we get to the rules. I just want to start off with a lot of the hype that I heard going into the start of the new XFL season was the team from Dallas. The team from Dallas, Dallas
Bob
Renegades.
Stoops.
Bob Stoops, the return of Coach Bob Stoops to football. Yeah. So they've got the hot name. A lot of quote unquote experts believe that the Dallas team drafted the finer talent going into the inaugural season. And so you're thinking best coaching staff plus best overall NFL retread / college talent equals Dallas is running away with the league. Well, unfortunately, Dallas's run and an undefeated season ends in week 1. So that's all I have to say. When you're 9.5 point favorites and you don't even score 9.5 points, you're the Dallas Renegades. So that's
a yikes.
There's crying Jordan face right there for
it's
you.
Almost like a Libertarian Party team of the week.
They really
sort
are.
Of.
They really are. They're the LP team of the week and cowardly coaches. I want to say I will get into this a little bit later, but since I mentioned it, I'll say this really quick. Because of the changes in rules, and we'll get into this in the very next segment, a lot of fourth down attempts, a lot of teams going for fourth downs because it just doesn't make a ton of sense to punt. And all weekend long, from every single clubs except for one, you saw a lot of fourth down attempts.
Yep.
The Dallas Renegades on their very first drive at home, after having picked up a couple of first downs, they get a fourth, and it's an inch. Like, I'm pretty sure, I feel like they probably should have measured it because it looked like they may have already had the first down, but they didn't measure it. At most, it's literally fourth down in an inch.
I'm pretty sure I heard your head explode when this happened.
And they punt. That is legendary Coach Bob Stoops being a cowardly coach on the first drive of the inaugural game. Cowardly coach coaching cowardly.
And I'll tell you something, audience, if you didn't recognize this. If you want to enrage Alan Mosley, fail to go for it on fourth down and short.
It's just...
It creates rage.
It does create rage, but by any metric, first of all, if you do a QB sneak, and I don't mean any cute little fake handoffs or lining up in the shotgun. I mean just a direct snap under center surge. Like you're guaranteed to pick up at least a couple of feet on something like 98.6% of attempts. So if you know that it's under a yard and you punt, you should not be coaching. It's just you don't know the metrics. You don't know what you ought to know in your position. Period. Yep. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to pull up. We're gonna look at the page here for the XFL. So anyone who wants to follow along with us, it's really easy. It's just xfl.com/rules, but that's what we're going to be looking at here. So they kind of they have this broken down into gameplay innovations, timing changes, and common sense rules. Imagine that, Mike Maharrey. They do common sense things to make the game better.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with gameplay innovations, the kickoff. Now, it sounds weird to hear it described, but we got to see it in action this past weekend. The kicker kicks from the 30-yard line. He must kick the ball in the air and in play between the opponent's 20-yard line and the end zone.
Yep.
The coverage team lines up on the return side 35, and the return team lines up on the 30-yard line. Each team must have exactly 3 players outside the hash marks on both sides of the ball. They cannot move until the ball is caught by the returner. So basically, you're creating a wall. Both teams are creating a wall on either side. The only person not on the wall for the kicking team is the kicker. The only for the other team, the kick returner. The ball has to, if it's out of bounds or falls short of the 20, this is an illegal procedure. Just like, I mean, in the NFL, you kick it out of the bounds. That's an illegal procedure. Right. The ball goes to the kicking team's 45. So it's a mega yikes if the kicker can't kick the ball straight and down the field. Players can move when the ball is touched by the returner or 3 seconds after the ball touches the ground. If the ball is kicked in the end zone and it is down, it is a major touchback, which means the ball comes to the 35-yard line. If it bounces into the end zone or is downed, then it's to the 15-yard line. So the point being is they're really trying to get teams to kick the ball in the field of play, but to the other end of the field, but in the field of play. None of this touchback on every play type stuff. If you want to take the risk of good return men out of the game by kicking it out of the back of the end zone, then you're going to give them an average starting field position of the 35 every time, which is pretty dang good for the offense. Yep. On the other hand, if you play a little bit too fast and loose with chip shot or squib type kicks, then you're going to get an illegal procedure, and then all of a sudden they're on your 45. So what do you think about that rule?
I like the rule a lot for a couple of reasons. The first thing, and if you watched any of these games, you noticed it right off, you actually had kick returns.
Yes.
That were interesting to watch. And it almost completely eliminated, it seems like every time you get a big kickoff return play in NFL and you're holding your breath because you know there's going to be a flag for a block in the back or a hold.
Sure.
And this lineup eliminates that. You know, you don't have guys hurtling 40 yards apart at each other. Yep. I think there's obviously a player safety issue here, which is a good thing. But it just makes for a more interesting kickoff without taking the kickoff out of the game. You're making the player safer, and you're actually making a kick return. You know, make kick returns great again. Yep. I really like this rule a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you know, I was someone who was a very vocal opponent of them tweaking the kickoff rules in the NFL because I don't want to remove the kick returner from the game. But I also understand we live in a time where there's a big outcry for player safety. I mean, if the audience, if the public at large decides they're not going to support a league where everyone has jelly for brains, then you got to make changes. The XFL, I really feel like they're having their cake and eating it too. I mean, I think they nailed it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so too.
Point after touchdown. So you can go there's no extra point kicks. There's none of this. We'll move the kick back to make it more challenging nonsense, or you have to declare for a 2-point which effectively ruins trick plays in the NFL. Those are gone. There's no extra point kicks. It's just you can go from the 1 for 2 points. You can go from the 2-yard line for 1 point. There's your extra point. You can go from the 5-yard line for a 2-point conversion, or you can elect to go one play from the 10-yard line for 3 points, which means we didn't see a lot of that in yesterday's games. Teams who are scoring early or often typically are not trying to pour on 9-point plays, but it opens the door for potential comebacks because 9 points is theoretically a single possession. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that too. I think a little bit, watching the first games, I think there was a little bit of old school, coaches are still doing old school math.
Yes, they are.
They're not, I don't think, maybe as the game goes on and as the league evolves, you'll see more risk taking. Mostly they did go for one. I saw a couple of 2-point tries. I didn't see any 3s.
Yeah.
But, it did seem like they were kind of doing the math as, 7-point, But I like the concept and I like the options. And I think when you get in a tight game or you have a team making a comeback, you're going to see a little bit more of that risk taking on those plays. And and two, you have to realize too that this was a pretty fast wind up for these guys. They didn't have a preseason. First game. From what I understand, there wasn't even a lot of contact practice.
No.
So you're going to see, I think, more intricate plays, more use of the rule variations as the league goes forward. I hope so, anyway.
Well, I was gonna wait for those type of impressions later, but since you brought that up, it's worth mentioning. I know. Well, we don't. People think we planned this. We don't plan this.
There's no plan here.
So it's definitely worth mentioning that the product looked pretty dang. I mean, it looked like professional football, and these guys have only been on teams with one another practicing for like 10 weeks or something ridiculous. Pretty dang good. Pretty dang good considering the time. It being the inaugural, you're going to have some hiccups, and it being a new game. So, even though it's its own league, every player in this league is not a veteran of the XFL. They're veterans of the NFL or college. So they're adapting to the new rules, just like the audience is. So that's definitely interesting. I liked it. I liked all that too. So punting team cannot release past the line of scrimmage until the ball is kicked. So you can have gunners and they can move side to side if they want, but you cannot run your gunners down the field. You cannot basically go into coverage until the ball is kicked. Right. The defenders over the gunner can't cross the line of scrimmage until the ball is kicked. And same thing, if the ball goes out of bounds inside the 35-yard line, it is a major touchback. The ball goes to the 35. Mm-hmm. If the ball lands in the opponent's end zone or goes out of the end zone, to the 35. Fair catches are permitted. So that's really the only big changes with the punt. So again, it's really trying to incentivize punters. If you're a good punter and you can down the ball, if you can down the ball inbounds deep towards the end zone, then you certainly can make the attempt. But failing to do so can backfire, and vice versa. They want the punt returner to return the ball. They don't want a lot of fair catches. If you fair catch, then you're going to get the ball right there. If you let the ball bounce, obviously you're running the risk of where it's going to go. If you actually receive it and take off, then you're going to at least get the yardage you get, as opposed to potentially having it down versus the major touchback. So all in all, they're trying to lower the super high impact gunner type collisions while also definitely making it a very feast or famine decision to return punts.
Yeah. And again, I like the change. I didn't feel this change as much in the games. There actually were a couple of really good plays where the punter was able to pin the opponent deep. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the effort to, create the play, allow the players to play the game, incentivize them to, touch the ball and go with it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So all in all, so far, I mean, none of the changes you would say turned you off from the game. All of them turned you on to the game.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go. This is the last one in this section that we didn't really get to see. The double forward pass. Now it's a little bit deceptive because the only way you can complete a double forward pass is if the first forward pass is still behind the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Now, obviously, if the pass is sideways or behind, that's a lateral, and so it's not a forward pass. So you can do that in the NFL. You can pitch the ball forward, but they still have to remain behind the line of scrimmage in order to attempt a double forward pass. So, I mean, it's not like they can throw it to the 5 and then throw it to the 50. It's not quite like that. I mean, that would probably make it a bit too yikes, because basically at that point you're playing basketball, right? You're just moving the ball down the court. But we didn't see this attempted, and I mean, it's definitely one of those things where you feel like it's a matter of time, right? Like, again, everyone's kind of being a little bit conservative because everything's new, but it's just a matter of time that someone has that in their playbook, and they're gonna pull it out when everyone thinks that that's not what's coming.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Vipers had the perfect opportunity because they had two guys on the field in Flowers and Murray that can both throw the ball,
Yeah.
But we can talk about the coaching debacle that was the Tampa Bay Vipers if we want to. But
the last one that we didn't get to see is the overtime rules. None of the games were so close late in the fourth to even warrant this. But the overtime rules. So in short, it's a 5-round shootout, a la hockey or soccer, but it's more akin to the college game. So you're going to start, each possession starts at the opponent's 5-yard line. You have one play to score. So in college, there's no kicking. You just start with the ball, but you're starting at the ball at like the 25, and then you just run your offense. In this case, you're starting at the 5, but it's fourth down. So it's effectively 4th and goal at the 5. And there's going to be 5 rounds. So the 5 rounds will continue either until all the rounds are done, or one team has been mathematically eliminated because they've failed to score too much. So what do you think about football shootouts?
I think it's an interesting concept. I'd like to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's the thing that I think is the farthest afield from what we would call traditional football.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. I don't like the NFL rule. So, I think that I think it's going to be more exciting.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what does this fix? It fixes sudden death. There's no, I won the coin toss, therefore I'm going to win the game now. It also fixes there's no ties. It fixes ties. So there's no both teams kicked field goals or failed to score, therefore it's a tie. So there's no ties. There's no coin toss equals victory. But it also removes the opportunity from, for instance, the college game where there's 10 overtimes because they scored the same amount of points over and over and over, or they're only kicking field goals because it's a defensive game. So 9 field goals later, we're going into quintuple overtime, whatever. So it keeps we'll get to the gameplay, the timing rules here in a second. But they want pacing. They want the pace to be high. They want the games to fit in their time. Imagine that. They want, if it's a 3-hour time slot, they want the game to be over. In 3 hours, there's none of this. We're going to delay the second game for 30 minutes because we're late in the fourth and we're calling timeouts. Those days are over. And even if it goes to overtime, man, running play after play after play at the 5-yard line, you're going to have a winner in about 5 or 10 minutes. You really are.
For sure.
So, I mean, I agree with you that I feel like we kind of need to see it play out, and we haven't yet. But I get it. I get exactly why they're doing it.
And it definitely fits within the kind of dynamic and the framework that the XFL is trying to create.
Yeah,
it definitely fits into the game that they're making. And I like the fact that they're being innovative, but at the end of the day, it still looks like football.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job of kind of walking that line, to be honest with you.
So we'll run through in our own changes to gameplay and pace to make it go faster. We're going to do the same thing in the 5 timing changes. 25-second play clock. What do you think about 25-second play clock?
Love it.
The pace was great, and there was next to no delay of games.
Yeah. I really liked it.
Yeah. And a lot of people have pointed out, and accurately so, that this rule is easier for the XFL to do than college or pro because they allow a lot more players with microphones in their helmets.
Yeah.
Which
I think is a good thing. The communication's better. You have a little bit less of this people running around going, oh,
yeah. I mean,
nobody wants to watch that.
So I agreed with Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman was interviewed during the Renegades game, and he said the same thing, that he would actually be perfectly fine with seeing all players in any football contest having the headsets in their helmets, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it makes a faster gameplay easier because there's less communications issues. But also I mean, look, Aikman was a quarterback, and generally speaking, you know how you have your retired offensive players tend to kind of be ho-hum on changes that help defense and vice versa. He's fine with all offensive and defensive players having it because he just thinks the game's better, just period.
Yeah. I think he got a phone call from Goodell after that.
Yeah, I know. He's done. He's done. The comeback period. So after the 2-minute warning in each half, on a play that ends in the field of play, the game clock stops. The game clock stops until the ball has been started, and then 5 seconds run off the play clock. So the play clock has a runoff of seconds so that the other team doesn't get the benefit of too much time to set up their next play. So you do have to hurry, but you don't have to worry, you don't have to worry about a lot of spiking, running for out of bounds. You can play the middle of the field. You can elect to do draws, do more running. So you have your whole offense at your disposal, and the play, as long as you end in the field of play, the game clock is going to at least stop until they spot the ball. I mean, this definitely sort of kind of pseudo hurts defenses and helps offenses, but I'm willing to let defense take one on the chin here because, again, the pace of play is just fantastic.
Yeah, and we saw this in operation. It wasn't really close at the end of the Dallas-St. Louis game, but I guess it was the end of the first half where you kind of saw the 2-minute thing play out, and I liked it. It felt good. It was interesting to watch. It changed the offensive dynamic a little bit in a way that it kind of sped up the game, even though in a sense it's slowing down the game, if that makes any sense.
Well, and also too, you think of the end of the first half. Of course, at the end of the first half, the game won't end at all knots. So you want to score points, no matter whether you're winning or losing. I think it was the Vipers. I think it was the Tampa Bay New York game where, at in the 2-minute warning of the first half, there was 4 possessions. Each team got the ball twice in those last 2 minutes because both teams are trying to hurry up. Both teams want to score points, and the clock is stopping. But it didn't mean that we had another 20 minutes of TV because of 4 possessions. Those 4 possessions came and went. I mean, in damn near 2 minutes.
Boom, boom, boom.
So again, I think it definitely is pro offense and anti defense, but the other side of that coin is that, like I said with the first half, I mean, your offense should be taking advantage of it as well, right?
Sure.
Up-tempo game clock. Outside of the last 2 minutes, if a play ends out of bounds or an incompletion, the game clock will be stopped until the ball is spotted. But then it will run. Aside from incompletions and out-of-bounds plays, the game clock rules outside of the last 2 minutes of each half are the same as the NFL. So basically what that means, effectively speaking, is that outside of the 2-minute warning, it's not exactly like hockey or soccer, but it's much closer in the sense of you have more of a regular running game clock throughout the game.
Yeah. And again, it's making the game predictable in terms of its length.
Yes.
I didn't feel that as a spectator, it didn't make an impression on me one way or the other than the entire pacing of the game was faster. I felt like that was more of a function of the quicker game, quicker play clock. But overall, the pace of the game was really, really nice. It was enjoyable to watch, and you didn't have those, this is forever. I liked it. Yeah. I liked those clock innovations a lot.
Now, this next one, people may have noticed that we're watching at home. You know how they have those little dots or ticks underneath the team's logo, so you know how many timeouts are left? You may have only seen 2. It's because each team only has 2 1-minute timeout per half.
Yep.
The timeouts are only 1 minute. So you only get 2. Sometimes they don't even go to commercial because it's just boom, boom, or we're back to the field of play. And other times, I mean, you get 1 commercial and you're back on the field again. Right. I mean, the game and the studio, the whole production of the contest on your television screen. I mean, it's just rolling.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, the rationale is that with all the changes to the last 2 minutes, you shouldn't need to be sandbagging a bunch of timeouts because you're able to stop the clock when you need to. Outside of 2 minutes, why are you stopping the clock? You got to play the game.
Right.
And so I mean it's kind of like I really feel like they did a good job of having their cake and eating it too. You get a lot of stoppages in the last 2 minutes for comebacks or for extra scores before the half, but vice versa. Outside of those 2 minutes, the onus is you got to have your team prepared, right? Because they got to go play.
Yep.
25 seconds play. 25 seconds play.
Yep.
So I love it. We're going to move on to the replay rules. That to me, this might have been the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah, this is the game changer.
Now, I'm not going to read the whole big smorgasbord of rules. To put it simply, more things are reviewable than the NFL allows to be reviewable. The reviews can still be initiated from the booth. You have a dedicated replay official who is in the booth at every single stadium on site. His only job is to rule on the replays. And man, the production. They actually put they put the viewer in the replay booth. You're sitting there over the shoulder of the replay official, and you can hear the radio of him talking to the head referee on the field. The head referee says, "This is what we're looking at." He looks at the play. They determine if a change needs to be made. If it stands, it stands. If a change needs to be made, it's instantly, okay, we're making a change. Where does the ball go? What's the down and distance? Where are we at? The review guy immediately rolls the tape back, gets the yardage, radios it in. So not only is there 100% transparency of the game, there's much, and not only, by the way, did they by far and away, they got the calls right. Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine that.
It was weird.
It was weird. They get the calls right. We all get to see it in action. And then on top of all that, and like I could speak for I know what Roger Goodell would say. Roger Goodell would say, the reason why you're not in the replay booth and the reason why we don't review everything and get them all right is because people don't want to wait 20 minutes for officials to decide what's right. You know what, man? Those replays were done in like 60 seconds yesterday. They were killing it.
And I'll tell you what, I don't know about how it felt in the stadium, but from our perspective as a TV viewer, being able to watch that process, and they talk it out. If you didn't see the game, you have to watch this because they talk it out. He'll look at it. He explains what he's seeing. He interprets the rule. You hear exactly the thought process that replay official is going through, and that to me was some of the most interesting television in the whole game, because I'm like, oh, okay. And there's no question about what they're, and you can see. I remember one play in particular. It was a fumble and then a score, if I remember correctly. And no, it wasn't. It was a catch, fumble, score. And so they had to look at the catch, and they had to look at if he had made a football play, and you hear him saying, oh man, that's close, but there's not enough to overturn it. You could see that process. It was really, really good. They need to do that in NFL yesterday.
I agree. So we're going to get to some 5 common sense rules where the XFL again kind of differentiates itself from the NFL. You'll see a little bit of NFL. You'll see a little bit of college in here. Starting off with catch rule, 1 foot inbounds. So college rule. What do you think?
I'm good with it. I mean, I can go with it either way.
Yeah,
a little bit of an advantage to the offense, but
yeah, I mean, again, a lot of. In general, the rules favor the offenses more than the defenses, and they've been pretty unapologetic in saying they want to have exciting, well-scoring. Right. I mean, unless you're the Dallas Renegades, they're exciting, high-scoring games. But you know what? It's the college rule. That's not going to be foreign to anyone. I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah,
it was fine.
And at the end of the day, they just simplified the catch rule because, I mean, the NFL. How can you possibly get wrong what is and isn't a catch? The NFL figured out a way. And the XFL doesn't do that. Dedicated ball spotting official. So not only do you have your dedicated replay official, you have an extra official on the field who doesn't throw flags. Their only job is to walk around with a sack of footballs and spot the ball after every play so that you can have a 25-second play clock so that you can keep the pace high. There's none of this referees are at the edges of the field, run in, throw the ball to the other guy, he puts his foot down. There is a ref that's in the backfield whose only job is to spot the ball. I don't see why having extra officials getting things right could possibly be a bad thing.
No. And I like the red hat. You see him right out there with that red hat. Yeah. I like that too. I like that a lot. Like you said, how can you go wrong? We've got one more person that can get things right.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom.
Coach to player communications. We already talked about that. So basically skill position players and your defensive backfield, they've all got their headsets. I'm with Aikman. Just give it to all 11. I'm good
with that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. Simplified illegal man downfield. So this is a little bit more esoteric. An eligible player downfield shall be or have been more than 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage until a passer throws a legal forward pass. So in the NFL, it's 1 yard. So basically, they only make it yard because it's just kind of like extra room for the referee to see the line of scrimmage. I mean, basically, if you go much more than a step beyond the line of scrimmage, you're going to get hit with illegal man downfield in the NFL. In the XFL, you get 3 yards. Now, for one, it makes it easier to tell, right? Like if they're way downfield, it's illegal man.
Right.
If they're within the realm of the line of scrimmage, they don't call it. So and you may have noticed this, just in general, for a brand new league and a bunch of players learning new rules, there was very few penalties yesterday.
No,
not a lot of penalties. There were some replays. The replays, by the way, are reviews. The reviews, by the way, were all excellent. They got them right. But I mean, there was maybe one or two iffy calls, but
I saw one that I didn't like. But you can understand that in the speed of the game, it was a unnecessary roughness call on a hit.
Yeah,
and it kind of looked like in full speed that there might have been a little bit of helmet involved. It was shoulder to shoulder and slow. But you can let that go. It's a difficult call to make on the fly. So that's really the only play that I saw that was like, ooh, I don't like that call.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, and then finally the last one, and then we're gonna get solemn. Shorter halftime. Halftime's only 10 minutes. 10-minute halftime.
It was enough time for me to pop some popcorn and go to the bathroom, so I was good with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with it too. I mean, at the end of the day, they really went all out to give themselves as much room as possible to make sure that whether there is penalties, whether teams are using all their timeouts, whether there is overtime, by God, this game's going to be done in under 3 hours, Mike Maharrey.
And you know what? More power to them.
I mean, and again, NFL games are scheduled for 3 hours. It's just way more often than not they go over. I mean, XFL decided we're going to schedule our games the same way, but because there's only 2 games a day. There's 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And from what I've seen, every game's on a different network. Like if there's 2 games on Saturday, the early game's on one network, the late game's on the other network. They don't want to have to deal with telling another network, another stadium, another crew, hey, pause your game 15 minutes. The early game's still wrapping up. In the NFL, they do that.
Yeah.
They will not start the next network television game on, say, CBS until the prior game is done, or then you flip over and you've missed some of the action. By gosh, in the XFL, they want their game done and moving on to the next game.
Yeah. I'll throw this in real quick before we get solemn.
Yeah.
I was impressed with the overall production, the announcers.
Yes.
They did the player interviews after a score, like in the middle of the game. They go down and talk to the player who just scored a touchdown. I like that. Mm-hmm. The production value was solid. They let you hear the coaches. There was a lot more people mic'd up, and you could hear coaches actually calling in the plays, which was kind of cool. A lot of things in the coverage, I think, was innovative and made the game more interesting, especially as kind of a football wonk. That kind of behind the scenes. I like that. So kudos on that too.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We talked about the AAF really briefly when it first came out, and then we're kind of like when it died, we were like, well, that's over.
It ran out of money.
Yeah, it ran out of money. That's dead. But I don't think that will be the fate of the XFL. I mean, we have a really small sample size right now, but I mean, to me, again, what really stood out was just overall the professionalism was there. If there was anybody out there who watched the original XFL and then did not watch this weekend because they just they've already made up in their mind what they were going to see, they really missed out. This is not.
Yeah, this is a different animal.
Yeah, the first XFL was really trying hard to be some identity. It was trying, kind
of wrestling.
Yeah, and this was just football. It was just, and it was professional football. Again, this was not. It didn't look like the minor leagues. It sounded and felt and looked like professional football. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the New York Guardians are going to beat the New England Patriots by any stretch of the imagination.
We saw some bad quarterback. I mean, there was. You're playing with the lower level of player. I mean, the guys that are in the NFL because they're the best in the world, but it didn't, like you said, it didn't feel like minor league. It was quality football.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I think the best way to put it was quality football.
Yeah, exactly. So with that said, it's time to get solemn. It's time for In Memoriam, where we remember a player, a team, a coach, whoever, whose sporting life was cut tragically short. Mike, who are you remembering this week? I see you looking at the screen there, so I'm going to put it up.
Yeah, it has to be there. Today, I'm going to remember Eric Weddle.
Oh.
6-time Pro Bowl
Mhm.
and 2-time All-Pro safety. He announced his retirement shortly after the end of the season. It was his 13th season.
Yep.
He started in all 16 Rams games this past year. He had 108 tackles. That was his highest tackle total since 2014.
Wow.
A lot of people didn't expect that.
Hmm.
They figured he'd play one more year, but he said he'd had enough. And his quote was, "I know I can still play and play at a high level, even with the knee." He had a knee injury that he had to battle through this year.
Yeah.
He said, "But thinking about going through a whole season, going through the pain, honestly, it made me sick to my stomach. And I realized if my heart's not in it, my mind's not in it, then it's time to go. I always follow my gut, and that's what I'm feeling right now." You know, kind of another example of one of these guys that you have a career and you made your money, and it's like, I'm not going to beat my body up for this anymore.
Yeah.
So good luck, Eric.
I understand. You know, my in memoriam, I'm remembering NBA officiating, because now with the NFL over, all the eyes are set to just how terrible the NBA refs are. You know, if anyone's worse than the NFL, it probably is the NBA refs. So this actually comes from the recent Utah Jazz Portland Trailblazers game that ended up 117-114 Utah Jazz. Damian Lillard for the Trailblazers scored like a bajillion points. That's something like 40 something in the second half to keep the game close. They end up coming up short, and I will let you see in this clip right here. The step back jumper misses, and that's the end of the game. Utah wins. But you will notice shortly after the celebration, Damian Lillard has to be restrained by coaches and teammates because he almost attacked officials on the court. Now,
I think he said some bad words.
Said some bad words. Now, you're going to see here in just a moment why he's saying those bad words. Watch this. Now, what you just saw in that clip, you're going to see the replay right here. Damian Lillard, well, that was the end of the game. So they'll show the replay again. Damian Lillard, in just a possession earlier, drives to the hoop for what would have been a tie game. This was to tie the game. Yeah. It's a layup. He lays the ball off the glass, and then the Jazz come in and slap the ball. Now,
yes, they do.
Now, you might have seen similar plays to like that in the past, where if I go up for a layup and you come up behind me and slap the ball off the glass, as in ball comes off my hand and then you hit ball off backboard, that is a legal block. Mm-hmm. But if I lay up the ball, once the ball touches if you don't touch the ball, if the ball goes from my hand to the glass, you cannot touch the ball until it clears the backboard and the rim. We call that goaltending. We call that goaltending. So it's not just because a lot of people know goaltending as if the ball's trajectory is heading downward, you can't touch the ball. That's goaltending, and that is true.
Right.
But in the NBA rule is if you lay the ball off the glass and you touch that ball again, you have goaltended. Period. End of story. Now, two things here, Mike Maharrey. Number one, we see the replay. He clearly 100% hit the ball off the glass. That is a goaltend.
There's no question.
No question. Mm-hmm. It should have been 116 all at that point in the game. No question. Second of all, of course, you know where this is going. The referees called that nothing. They let the play go. Utah ends up getting 1 out of 2 on free throws. Utah misses the final 3. That's the end of the game. Now, there's the two problems here are as follows. Number one, they missed the call. It was a goaltending. Mm-hmm. They don't call the goaltend. And it was quite obvious, frankly. We saw it in the replay. Now, question two. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a boom-boom play. He just saw the block. He didn't see it go off the glass. Here's the thing, though, Maharrey. That's a reviewable play. Ooh. They simply elect not to. They simply...
Maybe it was happy hour.
It was happy hour. The NBA officials simply elect not to review the play. Now, the only reason you could possibly give not to review that play is that you are 100% certain it was a legal block. There's no need to look at it, you guys. Let's wrap this contest up. Well, since it was A, goaltending, so it cannot possibly have been obviously not goaltending because it was. And
it was.
And two, I mean, in the replay, we clearly see it as goaltending. And three, even in the boom boom, This is a one possession game in the final 10 seconds. How do you not review it?
I don't know.
Why even bother having? I mean, of course, it just brings up all the worms of the referees are rigged. The referees, I mean, at worst they're bad, or at best they're bad. At worst, it's rigged. And then why do we bother having reviews? Here I was starting the show with asking you the NFL was over this year, right? And no, it came back in the form of NBA because the NFL had this problem this year too, right? We actually saw reviews where they still got the call wrong after slowing it down and looking at multiple times. Mm-hmm. In this case, the NBA, I'm in memoriam for NBA refs because not only did they get it wrong, they refused to review it, and you saw Damian Lillard's response.
Yeah, that may be the best in memoriam ever.
Yeah. We don't have any picks. I don't feel like it's time for XFL picks yet.
No, I don't think.
And I
have a puck to the head.
Ooh, shoot the puck to the head.
All right, well, it's pretty quick too. I'm actually going to the ranks of high school coaching because a former coach at Atlantic High School in Port Orange, Florida, he got canned, and he did two things that really you probably shouldn't do if you're a high school coach. First off, he told his players to, quote, stop acting black.
Go on.
Yeah, that's less than ideal.
No.
And, oh, by the way, he was also accused of sexting two 15-year-old girls.
So that's easily two of the top three worst things you can do if you're that guy. Okay.
His name was Kendall Bradley. He is no longer the coach. He also lost his teaching license, by the way. And what's kind of weird about this is this has been going on since like 2017, and they're just now getting around to firing him.
Well, sounds like he probably works at a public school, but this isn't that show. This is SportsBall, so I'm gonna be on my best behavior.
Anyway, Kendall Bradley, you get a puck to the head.
Got any final thoughts?
I did have a final thought, and now I'm not going to be able to remember what it was. It was an interesting little factoid that I ran across, and I'm lame, and I can't remember what it was.
Well, we're over time,
so I guess I don't.
Yeah, we're over time, so we're cutting it anyway. I'll give you one quick final thought. The reason why we're not doing picks and the reasons why you don't see me writing any sunken cost money pit articles on the XFL. Did you notice that they were really hyping up betting on XFL games and talking about the over under and everything else? My only response, that's fine. I have no qualms with that. My only response is, how could you possibly make an educated bet on week one of a league that's never played? How could you know anything? It's ridiculous. Just to drive that point home, everyone already knew the Dallas Renegades were going to run away with this thing, and they're 0-1 and the only home team that lost. So I don't want to hear it. It's so ridiculous to be making picks and betting on a game where you literally have no tape, no film, no trends, no stats. Right. Utterly ridiculous. Yeah. But people were doing it. That's the point. That's my final thought. People were doing it. Yep. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of SportsBall. We're a proud product of some network or another. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, I don't know. We do something.
We're a proud product of me and Mike. Well,
we are.
I don't know how proud. We're a product.
And it is you and I. So there you go.
Guys, thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Love me.
You've been listening to SportsBall with Mike Maharrey and Alan Mosley. You can follow us on Facebook and leave comments, suggestions. Just go to @SportsBall Podcast. That's @SportsBall Podcast on Facebook. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.